What's up guys, my name is PIxarDonks and welcome to the channel. I play Destiny 2 on Xbox and my goal with this channel is to provide you guys with creative builds, tips specific to my fellow console gamers, as well as cover niche topics I haven't seen anyone else cover. I hope to provide a unique take on Destiny 2 from the point of a console player, as I feel as though most content creators within the community are currently located on PC. I play quite a bit of Destiny and follow the game closely, so I will try my best to make sure any content here will be on topics I have yet to be seen covered elsewhere. That's it for the intro. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and let's hop into the video. To start, let's take a look at a quick overview of the topic I want to cover, which is why the new exotic Dead Messenger grenade launcher and the new exotic Osmiomancy Gloves are a match made in heaven. My favorite part of Destiny 2 is creating unique and synergistic builds, and I believe the one I showcase today takes advantage of many components in a way you might not have thought of before. This build allows for the Guardian to take advantage of the Font of Might mod on the Stasis subclass, while also accounting for all three shield types in the case of match game content. In addition, you will be a walking turret, flinging an almost constant stream of cold snap grenades, providing amazing crowd control for both you and your fire team. There are four main parts of the build, with a few interchangeable options for added customization. Throughout the video, I will cover the essentials of the build, which revolves around a top slot stasis weapon, the Dead Messenger exotic grenade launcher, a bottom slot stasis weapon, as well as the Osmiomancy Gloves. In addition, I will cover the fragments, aspects, stat distribution, as well as armor mods you should be targeting in order to get the most out of this build. Finally, I will conclude with a description of some special synergies you should be on the lookout for when trying this build for yourself. Let's now hop into the build. Alright, so hopping over to Light GG here, I will first be covering the weapons necessary for this build. One of the nice things about this build is that the top slot and bottom slot weapons have many options that work equally well depending on your playstyle, and this allows for some customization not found in other builds. The criteria for the top slot weapon you are looking for in this build is a stasis primary weapon. There are currently some really strong top slot stasis options in the game, and some perks to look out for that synergize particularly well include Demolitionist, Adrenaline Junkie, and Headstone. So looking at my rolls here, my personal favorite is this hand cannon, the Eye is Luna. You can roll something such as Demolitionist and Rapid Hit, but there are also some extremely other strong options in the game currently, such as the auto rifles, the Crate, one for all overflow, or the Herod, one for all stats for all. You can even get the Scout Rifle, the Perseus D, Headstone Rapid Hit, the new Pulse Rifle, the Syncopation with Headstone and Outlaw, or even the older Iron Banner Sidearm, the Peace Bond, which can roll Swashbuckler and Subsistence. Or you could even go for something such as the Judgment Hand Cannon, and while this is not a stasis weapon, it can roll something such as Osmosis and Demolitionist. And with the amount of grenades you will be throwing, it means this is essentially a stasis weapon. So moving down to our second slot weapon, an exotic of choice, the Dead Messenger grenade launcher. As I'm sure everyone knows, this is a wave frame grenade launcher that fires 3 elemental waves per shot and can be toggled between arc, solar, and void energy types. The cool part about using this exotic within the build is that it's not thrown in here for the sake of being a new exotic. It actually serves a purpose. So the ability to switch between all three shield types makes this build scale extremely well into match game content, and waveframe grenade launchers are extremely efficient at defeating frozen enemies. Moving down to our bottom slot weapon, again there are some customization options here, as the only criteria is that it must be a stasis weapon. Perks that synergize well here include any damage dealing perk, as this build will be focusing on constantly proccing that 25% damage bonus from Font of Might, so any additional damage coming from perks on your weapons will only be amplified further. So looking at some example weapons here, we have the Palmera B. This can get rolls such as auto-loading holster, explosive light, and can also be crafted. Another extremely strong option is the Reed's Regret. You can get damage perks such as Firing Line. And there are also other options new this season, such as the Typhon grenade launcher. You can get a roll such as Frenzy Demolitionist, or even this is sort of a niche option, as I believe it can't be got anymore or obtained anymore, but the Zypher sword, which can roll the unique perk Cold Steel as well as Unrelenting, making for an extremely strong option. The final component of this build are the new exotic gauntlets, the Osmiomancy Gloves. Really quick, this exotic allows you to hold 2 Cold Snap grenades. It buffs the Seeker tracking distance as well as return its energy on each grenade hit. So this exotic is being used as it synergizes really well with some of the well mods we have available to us, as well as the aforementioned Dead Messenger grenade launcher, which, like I said, absolutely shreds through frozen enemies. Taking a look at our subclass of choice, we will obviously be on Shadebinder Warlock, and while this build has some customization options in terms of weaponry, you are a bit more limited in what subclass options you can run in order to optimize the build. I have tested many different aspects and fragments when creating this build, and the ones I've selected are those that I believe will provide you with the best gameplay. The first aspect we'll be using is Glacial Harvest, where freezing targets create stasis shards. This ensures an almost limitless supply of stasis shards thanks to the constant freeze from our Cold Snap grenades, and we'll be using these shards to proc all our well mods. This aspect is crucial, as not only does it feed into our elemental well setup, but it ensures a constant supply of stasis abilities to provide maximum crowd control. The second aspect we'll be using is Ice Flare Bolts. This aspect is absolutely insane when combined with the Osmiomancy Gloves, and all but ensures you will constantly have a supply of Cold Snap grenades. This is due to a unique synergy where every additional Seeker spawned by Ice Flare Bolts returns grenade energy due to Osmiomancy's exotic perk. This causes a grenade that hits 3 to 4 enemies to return almost an entire grenade. Moving on to our fragments, again after much testing, these are the ones I believe work best with the build. The first fragment, Whisper of Conduction, synergizes extremely well with the Glacial Harvest aspect, as well as one of our elemental well mods. This fragment is extremely slept on in my opinion, and its ease of use along with the plus 10 to resilience and intellect make it invaluable. The second fragment, Whisper of Rending, allows our top slot weapon of choice to deal more damage to frozen targets. This, combined with a constant damage boost from Font of Might, turns our primary weapons into an extremely deadly option against any frozen enemy. Our third fragment, Whisper of Chains, provides some survivability to the build, as well as adding plus 10 recovery. You will constantly be around frozen targets when running this build, and even when targets are not frozen, they will be dealing reduced damage. Finally, our fourth fragment is Whisper of Fissures. This fragment increases the lethality of the build, turning each frozen target you defeat into an even larger explosion. It is important to mention that you must be running Cold Snap Grenade in order for this build to work. There is some wiggle room within the build in terms of weapons and fragments. However, if you run the Osmiomancy Gloves without the Cold Snap Grenade, your entire fire team will laugh at you. Before covering the mods you will need to slot in order to make this build work, I will quickly touch on what stat distribution you should be working towards. Recovery is the most important stat in any build in my opinion, and we obviously want our Cold Snap Grenade up as much as possible, so you should also lean into Discipline. It is important to note that the intellect stat does not matter much here thanks to some of the well mods we will be running. Don't ask me why my resilience is at a 9, I can't help it, I'm a Titan main. Taking a look at our helmet here, I have chosen to go with a stasis helmet rocking double harmonic siphon for supercharged orbs on stasis weapon kills, as well as elemental time dilation to increase our duration of some of the other well mods. These orbs are important as they allow us to charge the explosive light perk on our rocket launcher, proc absolution on our legs, as well as get our super back extremely quickly. The elemental time dilation mod allows us to extend the duration of Font of Might as well as Font of Wisdom, allowing for almost constant uptime on each of these powerful buffs. Moving on to our gauntlets, the Osmiomancy Gloves, I have them set to stasis in order to take advantage of the Grenade Kickstart perk, as well as slot the most important mod of the entire build, Elemental Shards. This mod allows for stasis shards to count as elemental wells. As I mentioned before, an endless supply of stasis shards will be created due to your grenades, allowing this single mod to power the entire rest of your build. Grenade Kickstart also provides a nice chunk of energy back toward our grenade, further increasing the uptime on this ability. Taking a look at our chest piece, I have it set to Void as I do with all my chest pieces this season. due to the fact that you can slot Void Resist as well as Thermoshock Resist in order to gain a resistance to all three main elemental damage types. I have also chosen to go with Font of Might, which will be fueled by the Elemental Shards mod and extended by the Elemental Time Dilation mod. This constant damage bonus is one of the strongest in the game and makes both your top and bottom slot weapons extremely powerful. On the boots, here I've once again set them to stasis, allowing us to slot a second Elemental Time Dilation mod. These mods stack with one another, even further increasing the uptime on both Font of Might and Font of Wisdom. We also have two Absolution mods, which when combined with the double Harmonic Siphon mods on our helmet, allows every super orb we generate to feed back into our abilities. Finally, on our bond, we have Font of Wisdom, which will be powered by our Elemental Shards mod and extended by both our Elemental Time Dilation mods, essentially allowing us to run max intellect at all times. As you saw before, I already had triple 90s within my stat distribution, and adding 100 intellect to this gives you an idea of how powerful this build can be. That is all the information you need to set up this build. I will now let some background footage from a lost sector play out as I note some of the key points to notice when trying this build for yourself. The gameplay loop begins when you throw your first Cold Snap grenade. Any target frozen by this grenade in a large cone can be shattered by the Dead Messenger, supplying us with our first set of stasis shards. These shards feed back into our abilities, as well as proc Font of Might and Font of Wisdom. We can now pull out our stasis primary and easily clean up any remaining enemies with our damage bonus. In the case of a major boss, the damage bonus to our stasis heavy weapon, along with the debuff given to frozen targets, allows for the same build to output a formidable amount of damage. By this point, your Cold Snap grenade has had more than enough time to recharge, and the loop begins all over once again. One thing to pay attention to when running this build yourself are the amount of enemies you freeze with each grenade, as the more targets you freeze, the more energy is returned. In addition, it is important to get a feel for when to use the Dead Messenger versus when to use your primary on frozen targets. It is often not worth wasting a Dead Messenger shot on a single frozen targets, but on the other hand, destroying large groups of frozen targets with your primary can be inefficient. Finally, make sure you run near any frozen target you have defeated when you notice your well mods are about to run out. Whisper of Conduction has a relatively large radius, however, it is easy to get lazy and forget to proc your well mods if you are not careful. That is all for today's video. Thank you to everyone who made it to the end. I hope you found this guide useful, and I hope to see Guardians out there taking advantage of this awesome pairing in the near future. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for any and all future content, and comment down below. What new exotic would you like to see in my next build? Until next time, PIxarDonks has left the building.